everyone. Politically high tech with your host, Elias. I have a reoccurring guest here. She is bold. She is fearless with her opinion. Okay. And if you embrace victim mentality, well, she's the exact opposite of that. So if you want to be poor me, I have four eyes, but I still can't see, or I got a half of a leg and yet I'm dying. Oh, this lady will put you to shame. Okay. And I've known her for quite a while, and I'm more than confident I'm saying that. Okay. And sure, I think even me, I learned how to be more resilient, tough up. And look, I got my own issues. Everybody got their own issues. Some are more obvious than others. Apparently, some people takes time. You got to analyze them a bit. So, oh, this person is very, very weird. If you pay attention to how, not even how they talk, but how they behave in certain situations. Sometimes a certain situation reveals that. I know her. If you love your victimhood, don't talk to her. I'm just saying it right now. If you love being So if you love being sorry, and me, I get disgusted with that. I mean, I used to feel that way. I used to be depressed. And guess what? I don't want to go back to that. It only seems attractive in the short term because it's easy. It's easy. But after a while, oh no, you go lower and lower and lower. It's some kind of psychological addiction. Okay. That's all I'm going to say about it. So let's welcome back. And I'm not going to say all else. I'm going to say the resilient Michaela Cox. Just make it nice and simple. And for those who are returning or they don't know anything, what do you want the listeners and the audience to know about?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I appreciate your kind words. I'm glad to be here. Love having good conversation. I am an author and speaker. I currently have about 14 books. I like to share my message and story because while I don't know everything or have all the answers, I can share with what I have learned about what it's like to travel my journey of navigating knocks at the door that I've had that involved a lifelong disability of legal blindness, divorced at 26 in 2005. And then I was blessed and fortunate enough to meet the love of my life after that. And then we were together for 12 years. And then in 2017, going on 7.5 years ago in October, we lost him. And so I became a widow and single mom all by the age of 38. So triple D by the age of 38, disability, divorce, and death. And yes, it's taught me a lot. So I have a lot to talk about and write about. So anyway.
Look at that. Even a divorce, something that a lot of people don't know how to handle. And I gotta say, I think which gender actually handles it worse. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think it's the male gender. Yeah, at first they seem kind of stoic, resilient in general. Just generally speaking, I know everyone's individual. And then they go downward spiral. How the women, it seems like they emotionally damage and then they bounce back up.
I don't know. I think it depends on, I mean, there might be something to that, but I think it has a lot to do with the variables and the reasons and the what's and the circumstances around it that can make it good or bad. It has a lot to do with whether it's divorce or anything, how a person handles that, regardless of gender, is going to have probably a lot to do with their personality and their perspective in life. Like I just explained to your audience, I have three major life circumstances, and you're correct to say I don't play the victim card, and I could have said screw it on all of them. So I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with your perspective and mindset, no matter what you go through.
Oh, yeah, I mean, mindset is
Alive,
very important. I mean, if
alive.
you would have told me that at 15 years old, I would have thought you was crazy and try to argue against you to death with shouts and yells and you don't understand me. You don't know what the bleep you're talking about. Look, if you want to hear me curse, that's more of the old episodes, even though people allowed to swear. Okay, 'cause this is an adult podcast. But if you're somehow 17 and prove that you're extremely mature, I'll make an exception. Because there's some people that are extremely mature. And there's sadly a lot of 20, 30s, even 40-year-olds that act like babies.
Oh yeah.
And trust me, I know I've worked with some of them. I have some of them even in my family. And I told myself, oh my goodness, I thought people would be more mature, more smarter. No, I think mature biologically, that's all they did. But in terms of mindsets, spirit, I think spirit is the most important one. People love to put that aside or just think it's gobbledygook or it's too offensive. I think it's offensive that we're removing God and drifting away from him more and more. I think that's
Mm.
personally offensive. And I'm proud to say it. I'm more of a spiritualist Christian. And I think moving away from him is the worst thing this nation could do. And we need him more than ever. I think we gotten weaker. We have gotten dumber as a nation. And we definitely more immoral. Yeah, definitely more immoral. And if this keeps up, we could end up like a crappy, fantastical, not even fantastical, just a third world nation. There's already some signs of that. There's already some signs of that in America. So yeah, the stock market looks good, but remember, all it takes is like one day crash
Yep.
and it goes down four. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. So, McKay's went through her D's, and guess what? Guess what? There should be no excuse. Look, I get it. Sometimes life is hard.
Yep.
I get it. I can be sympathetic to a certain point.
Mm.
But to make your problem into a long running soap opera, that's why I have a problem. You want to drag it on, you want to love your problem more than resolving it. Oh, I got problems with you because after a while I get drained and it gets tiring. You don't want to do anything about it. You love your problem. You love your problem. And some people get bewildered or shocked when I say you love your problem. You love your problem because like you play the victim, you always give excuses. I'm not saying life is easy. It's not. And I think in a way it's a good thing because how you gonna get stronger, how you get smarter, how you gonna evolve. If life was real easy, we just be what's this movie? Oh, Ollie. Yeah, there you go. I think obese, lazy, brain rotted human beings. I don't even know how to talk properly. I mean, we could end up just like that with convenience nearly perfected. So yeah, I try to make my life less convenient for that reason. Is exercising convenient? Oh no, it's opposite.
Yeah.
It's opposite convenient. Okay. All right. I'm trying to make this too spiritual, but we're going to definitely lace in with some politics because it's my show. And she also talk about politics as well. And I like to hear her opinions as well. And remember, I don't need to agree with it. Disagreement does not equal hate.
No, it just
Disagreement it's just opposing ideas. They're kind of the mental clash. Or ideally, and this is rare, it becomes like one super awesome idea. They give you impression to that. But yeah, so we are definitely gonna talk about some politics and I don't remind you quoting Bible or giving message of resilience as well, because I just think people need to hear that more than ever. Tribalism is making people stupid, more emotionally charged, and both the left and the right, and even the center. Sometimes the center falls for this nonsense as well. I cannot give the center the pass, even though I've given them the pass certain times, but not this one. Sometimes some join the left, sometimes they join the right, depending on the issues. But some even fan the flames even harder than both sides. And my reaction is just, bro, you just making things more difficult. But let me stop yammering and you pick your starting topic. Either
well,
resilience or politics. Go right ahead.
I think right now they kind of go together because we're going to be resilient to get through these next 70 days of the crap show we're in. Come on, can we make it the next 70 days, please, and then take a break? But being funny, but yeah, in this country, when you're
Actually, we hit somebody right there. I actually love that. The hidden third option. Let's mix it together. Love it.
oh
For
wait,
you video game nerds, I was one of them. You just unlock the secret third path. Go right.
yeah,
Let's do that.
go for door number
Brilliant.
3. I mean, it takes Our election cycle and presidential years are basically 18 months, so you better be resilient if you're going to run that race, literally. But and the American public need resilient not to lose their cool during it and lose all sense. But I don't know. It's been interesting this year. We've lived in a lot of unprecedented times and historical times. I mean, yeah, I'm 45. I'll be 46 in November, and I guess I've been trying to keep up with politics probably since the 90s, more so, later 90s when I was in high school. But I can't think of an election cycle where we had an attempted assassination on a president, where the president stepped out. Although, yes, I remember them referencing in the news this that LBJ did, but he did it with 7 months to spare, so they had time to figure out their crap instead of, oh, I don't know, 30 days prior to the DNC. Like, give me a break. You can't pull that off in time for anybody except the only logical conclusion they came to was what they did. But I don't know if it's going to be the smart play for the DNC. We'll see in 70 days. And then, you know, you have there's just so many things at play right now. And you have a president who's not running again, but yet he is still seen fit to live out his presidency, which I don't know if that's rational. But then one of the things, as much as I'm conservative, I'm not really thrilled with what I've been hearing on one of the news channels that I watch. The conservatives, unfortunately, and as much as I am a conservative and I usually agree with them, cannot have their cake and eat it too right now. They can't scream bloody murder and say Biden's not fit to run for office and want him out. And then when the DNC did take him out, basically, and ambushed him, I don't know who will ever completely claim that one, and arranged this that Kamala Harris got put in, and then say that it was undemocratic because all of the 14 million people that voted for Biden aren't being represented when they had the DNC last week. You can't have it both ways, people. You want them in or do you want them out? Come on.
I mean, for me to criticize the Democrats, they always try to play this having both sides, both contradicting things going their way to see if they could work or not. Look, if they pull it off, they're geniuses. But based on what I'm seeing here, and especially with Biden, and there's even rumors about revoking the 25th Amendment to get Biden down so Kamala Harris could be president already through the remainder of this term, which it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But I personally believe it's just rumors.
I think
I think
they should have done that already when he stepped down from the election. They should have done that already back in, what was it, end of June? July?
Me, I personally would have
July.
picked January this year, ideally, just to but I'm an idealist, I guess. Not that idea is not based on reality. Sadly, to your point, which I've been very critical about, you put Kamala Harris in such an unfair situation. Her campaign needs to move at least 300 miles per hour every single day. And then if she fails, she can give a legitimate excuse that, Biden stepped down on time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it had to be into July. It was in July or mid-July because they were a month out from convention. You're going, come on, compared to 7 months when LBJ did it back in the 60s, that's ample time to pull your crap together. But 30 days? I mean, like I said, you've been running this election for 18 months. What are you going to do in 30 days to get someone ready for DNC? Whether they had viable candidates or not, other than Kamala Harris, I don't know. But it was the only time-sensitive, efficient answer they could have done, whether they really were going to get it or not. Now, luckily, their delegates got in line and got her nominated. But before she was nominated, they were saying there was free agents in the DNC that didn't have to do that if they didn't want to. So I don't know. But the other thing I like or don't like her, which I don't, I'll just say that. But what I don't really like and what I've been seeing is very interesting in this election cycle is, regardless of an American citizen's viewpoint as a member of We the People and able to cast a vote, there have been things throughout this election, whether you lean conservative or liberal, that how in the world would you think what is going on the liberal side of things in the DNC is a good idea? It's not even smart. Like, okay, obviously it got rendered that Joe Biden is not able to withstand because he got out, but whether you liked him or not, when you saw his performance, I mean, this is a job. We are electing someone to fulfill a job. So when you think about when American people go apply for jobs, there are certain expectations, there are certain standards, there are certain things that should be expected. And if you can't do that, then why should you get the job? So that's why they got him out. Now, I say this to bring the next point. The way you run for president, the way you convince people that you are willing, getting worthy of their vote to get the job, is to show yourself and do things. Where the hell has she been? How do you think not showing yourself in front of the people that you're wanting their vote, you're trying to get their vote, and you disappear from the scene? How exactly, I would like to find out, do you think that is going to afford someone the privilege of running a country when you can't even show yourself before your voters? I'd like someone to explain that to me. How is that supposed to work? I mean, isn't that like a major part of the job application that we call the political election cycle? I don't get it. Like, how does she think that's going to work? Beats me.
I mean, to your point, it's very undemocratic how this transition happened. No one has voted for her. This is not to attack Kamala, at least from my end,
It's
but
procedural.
it's the fact.
Yeah.
It was a political party procedure to replace the candidate because, let's be honest, Biden bombed extremely bad.
Yeah.
Objectively speaking. I mean, I even heard I forget, one of the commentators said that we couldn't even spin this.
No, they couldn't.
One of them actually meant that television. I laughed so hard because I was waiting for them to spin it.
Oh, yeah,
I was okay. Tell, all right, come on, cook me a good story. Cook me some good BS. Give me high quality caviar BS. How you gonna spin this? Some tried. Okay, if you tried, you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh,
And there was a
drinking their own.
There were some that were actually not a few. There were some that were actually honest. I said, "Oh, this looks really bad."
Yeah, it did.
This makes really, really competent. Even though he's a liar, I mean, they lace all the criticisms, but it make it look competent. That's what's going to attract some of the undecided voters. And I said, "Yeah, you got to project confidence as a leader." I'd be not being an egotistical maniac, but yeah, compared to Biden just being lost and looked like he was staring into space half the time. I mean, it was sad. I mean, me after watching that debate, I normally tell people to watch the debate, but for those of you who haven't, God bless you. Just watch the highlights. For those of you who watch the highlights, you got everything you need. Because that debate, I'm telling you personally, I never felt so stupid in my life. I think half my IQ points have dropped after watching that debate. My brain just couldn't. I said, no, no, no. Yeah, my hardware fried for at least 12 hours. I said, I couldn't even text. I couldn't even speak properly because I was still marinating how horrible
Oh, yeah.
this stuff was. If you miss out, God has blessed you. He has spared you from this suffering. Me, as a mild political junkie, I watched it.
Yep.
And I suffered greatly, mind you, mentally. It was all mental. Well, I felt even physical too at times because I'm not even sure I wanted to get up as a dude. But enough about me. But it was just horrendous.
mean,
That's why they had to switch. Yeah, go ahead.
I just don't understand how, if she's not going to be around and she's hiding out by all points and purposes, you're basically doing what your boss did. He hid out. And second of all, how are you giving yourself the chance to persuade anyone? And what makes you think you're going to give the public anything different? And then the other thing I find interesting, they have been griping and complaining, and their whole message has been, up until she got into the race, doom, despair, and agony on the American public, and we're in a horrible state, and it's awful out there. And now all of a sudden, because you're in the race, it's all joy? How did we get from that overnight to joy all the time? Do they not occur to the American? Does it not occur to them that the American public actually knows how to listen and compare and contrast and go, wait a minute, this isn't syncing up. Like, this isn't right. Something's off here. Like, are we all that stupid? Not really, but you almost think we are. I don't know how they think they're going to make people make that big of a jump with them, but what do I know? Anyway, it's just things I've been noticing that I'm just like, that doesn't work. Aside from your own political affiliation, if you're talking about procedure and disappearances, I don't see how that's working for anybody. What about you?
Yeah, and I mean the Republican commentators, I should say, were predicting Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom, Gavinism. I rolled my eyes because even Dems will not be, I believe at least, I don't think Dems would be that insane to put Gavin Newsom over Kamala. Do you know how disrespectful that is to their woke constituents?
Well, it's not even
You're
that.
bypassing someone of color, a woman of color. I think would be a big backlash in a Democrat civil war. I think would have started.
Not only that, he's on his own sinking ship on the West Coast. What makes you think he's going to fare any better for the country? And another thing that I didn't like to happen at the DNC, which I don't understand, which to me is a matter of form and etiquette and consideration. Why do you want someone running the country when she walked out of her own party? Literally the night that Obama spoke, she left. She didn't even stay for her own party. So why are you walking out of parts of the job that you are having to do to ask for the job that you want? I need someone to help make sense to me how that is supposed to sync up and connect. To me, that is like worse form, bad form, and so I don't even know what you do with that. I really don't. Why would you walk out? Not just the DNC, the party itself, but it's your party. They're basically putting this on for you to get you elected. So why would you walk out of your own party? That's like going to a birthday party and then you say, peace out, I'm done. I don't understand these things. I literally cannot, like you were saying, I don't know what to do with these things. I can't compute them because they're so illogical to me. I don't get it.
I gotta break the news. The American society is running on vibes and emotion more than logic.
Yeah.
That seems to be increasingly true. And don't get me wrong, yeah, it's only good for like 2 seconds, but we need to go back to society where it was run more on logic and what's the right thing to do in principle as opposed to all this stuff. I gotta say, DNC threw a decent party. I think that's the only praise I could give them. If I would pick one of the two conventions, I'll go DNC just for the party vibes and just go home after that and then pull a Kamala when the things get somber and difficult. Just walk right out. That's what I would have done.
The other thing,
But
the only thing this is what, when you are not around to say what's going on, it leaves people to speculation. So my speculation is she only able to do one thing, is get ready for a debate that's okay, today's the 27th, I believe. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, like 14 days. So what? You're only able to do one thing at a time. So how are you going to run a country if you can only run one thing at a time? And by the way, women are supposed to be superior multitaskers anyway. So I don't know if you're faring very well for the job you want or for your gender. But anyway, so that's concerning, I would think, if that's in fact what she's doing. But she's not coming out for the public, last I heard. I think the count was up to 33 or 34 days or whatever it is. Where's Kamala? She's not helping herself, in my opinion. And then, like, what makes you think, meaning the American public, what is she going to present at the debate of her policies? Because no one's really heard, except for her when she announced her economical plan or whatever it was. And both sides were like, that's not going to work.
yep, and I did mention that to one more left-leaning guest. I said, I just think her not being transparent with policies is more of a weakness. Even if she has a bad policy, at least put something out there and get some feedback and maybe add some modifications to it. A bad policies, I hate, well, yeah, we are such a decaying society. A bad policy is better than no policy. I mean, obviously, ideally, you want good policy. But verbs, just say something. Instead of having your campaign staff say it for you. That's another criticism. They're doing some of the talking for. And to your point, yeah, I think no, yeah, women supposed to be far more superior than men in multitasking. And because I think they have more fluidity in yeah, moving different hemispheres of their brain. That's why they're able to do that. Okay, let's just switch this and that, and they do it effortlessly. They could probably do two or three. I mean, shoot, let me use my own mother for example. She did three things effortlessly. I said, I don't know how you could do that. Me, as a stereotypical man on that one, I could just do one thing at a time. I mean, I barely master how to do two things at a time. After that, if I try to do the third thing, my brain is fried. No, can't do it. It's a miracle. I could barely do two tasks at once.
So it looks
And they say it's not good for the brain too,
like
but
only
that's a whole.
preparing.
I don't want to make this too scientific.
So how is she going
Yeah,
to run
go
the
ahead.
country?
Yeah, no, you gotta juggle
Yeah,
a heck of a lot more than two or three tasks.
yeah.
Both it's numerous.
And I think she's going to have a heck of a fight against her because, as far as I know, one of the main things she was responsible for, she didn't even do well as VP. Like, she's going to have to answer for a lot of the things she did or didn't do well. And she's not even set her policies, never mind ready to answer those questions that I think it's fair and reasonable that are asked of her, especially if she's trying to go for the job that she's going for. I mean, I don't know. So I don't see how it's going to work right now unless something drastically changes in the next 70 days, which, considering the timetable she had to do, which really wasn't fair to her, I will give her that. You're lost a lot of ground, in my opinion, to waste the few precious days you had to basically not do anything for the last 30 to 35 days. That's 5 weeks of major time that could have been in your favor that I don't know if you have anything really to show for. The way I'm seeing what's coming on the news, unless I've missed something major, but I don't think I have.
No, I yeah, I mean, there's so much I could go on about, and I mean, what do you think of her VP pick, Tim Walz?
I don't know enough about him, and he doesn't look that. He doesn't. Okay, I don't want to sound anything, but I find it and I know she's probably trying because usually VP picks are a strategic to make sure you have a balanced ticket to catch all the votes you can. But I find it interesting that critics of the Republicans and the conservatives have said they're a white man's party. Well, you put an older white man on your ticket. Okay. Is that one of your major criticism of the other side of the aisle? Now, because I guess of her own background, she feels like she needs to pick up the votes from the white man, male America, maybe, but that's your whole criticism of so many candidates that have been on the right and the conservative Republican side for decades. So then how did you think that was going to serve you if that's your one basis for your criticism of the other side of why they shouldn't win, then why did you just do what you say they've been doing for years they had no business doing? And maybe
And
that's a weird thing to connect, and I shouldn't say that that's a problem because, like I said, it probably was a strategic move. Usually, VP picks are a strategic move and what they think they can get that the nominee that's for president can't get. But still, it's like, really? Okay. You must not really had a problem with the conservatives like you said you did because you just put them on your ticket basically by demographics. I don't know.
well, he's pretty progressive on certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and this is my criticism for both VPs. I don't think either of them are strategic, and I will say it again. I think JD Vance is a bad pick for Trump, and I think Tim Walz is not a great pick for Kamala Harris. They both are not strategic in that sense. He's supposed to expand the base, moderate the ticket, in my opinion, at least. But not neither side of the aisle has done that, and I will repeat that again. With the exception of Trump getting allies in the RFK camp,
Yep.
and even like Tulsi Gabbard. So I gotta say that's something not to you can't just laugh that off.
No, you can't.
And you want to get these swing, they could pull in some independent votes, the ones that have been hesitant. Not all of them, of course, but I think they could pull enough. If Kamala's gonna just laugh her way and underestimate Trump and his strategy, well, she's definitely gonna lose, and Trump cannot underestimate her either. So I'm just gonna say it as an independent looking at this as fair as I could.
Well,
because it's a toss up so far based on polling.
right.
But Trump keeps this up, getting these independents or even skeptical people. He could eventually win. Kamala's got to change her game.
Definitely. I would have thought I don't personally have a problem with JD Vance and what I've seen of him. I didn't know a lot about him before. That's usually the way it goes. I know much more about the presidential nominees than I do the VPs, and I have to go look them all up, right? Like most American people do. But when I did look him up, I don't necessarily have a problem with him inherently. Although I had half suspected and theorized before Trump announced that it was going to be JD Vance, I had almost expected him to pick a female or like a Tim Scott to kind of counter and balance out the ticket is what I thought he would have done. But I will say maybe one of the things that JD Vance does have going for the Republican conservative ticket is he's younger and he comes from, I think, one of the states that have been more in the forefront, and that I think he would be able to maybe reach the demographic of a younger nature, like the millennials is probably what I wonder if that went into part of that thought process. Whether he's a strong candidate or not for the Republican ticket, we'll know in November. But I wonder if that's what he brought to the table, as opposed to it could be argued that Kamala's pick of VP being Tim Walz or uh, out of touch because he's not in that demographic. And he's, like I said, white America. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and see how it serves them when they run the numbers on the map and what they're going to be able to gain from their picks and not gain from their picks.
Yep, only the election results will be the real determining factor. These polls are preliminary. They're just like watercolor paint. It can be washed off
Yep.
with a few curveballs, and it's just an idea, right? It's not definitive. It's not set in stone. Except if polls show one side winning by 7+ points, then you could say, okay, this person has a shot to definitely win this. And if it's double digits, it's almost guaranteed this person's going to win. I mean, in terms of Democrats, they're moderating their ticket because thanks to APAC, they already got rid of two of the extended members of the squad because they were too anti-Israel.
Yep.
And so definitely more moderate Dems are replacing the squad. But I think the core squad, the original four, I think they're okay. But the two newer ones, Corey Bush and Jamal Bowman, they were gone.
Well, I've often,
And I think without APAC, Jamal Bowman would have still been gone because he wasn't a great congressman, in my opinion. He wasn't. I mean, he caused trouble. He delayed the vote procedure with the fire alarm thing, which is
yeah.
that was bad. And he tried to lie about it, but even the media had to call him out on it. I said, yeah. And I was never a fan of him. He used to represent my district,
Oh, okay.
but 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 I'm happy I'd rather deal with this Democrat. He's just a regular Democrat as opposed to Jamal Bowman, who is, in my opinion, a bit I mean, so I'm happy with that redistricting happened. Because I was not, I would have definitely voted red if he would have still represented my area. That's how. Well, I'll even try it. You had to look up this person. I said, listen, you can wear clown makeup, Republican. I would still vote for you over this guy. And if the Republican's really bad, I will vote for them very, very easily. I just think I go by what I think is best for the area
Right.
and the time. That's how I vote. I have no political partisan loyalty. That's my brand, and I've been like that since my mid-20s.
Well,
I mean, I'm just gonna say this again. I started off as a very moderate Democrat who agree with Republicans on some things like fiscal responsibility. I always been kind of Republican on those issues. I never really wavered for that. Culturally, I'm kind of like more like a social liberal, but for the most part, yeah, that's what makes me more like moderate. That blue dog wing of the Democrat has been dying off. Yeah, well, I'm one of those who jump ship. So what's going on with the Democrats? And nah, I'm not supporting this. I'm good. Especially the woke political correctness stuff. So, no, don't tell me how to talk. This is anti-First Amendment, okay?
Yeah, I have strong issues with that. Two things before we jump on that. As far as
Sure.
One of them is I forgot what one of them I was going to say just now, but okay, so First Amendment censorship. But I would say that, oh, I know what it was. I had a feeling that the whole anti-Semitic push that we saw by a bunch of liberals and Democrats would bite them in the butt. And I've never understood this. I mean, there's always exception to every generalization and rule in politics, especially. But from my understanding, a lot of times people who are of a Jewish heritage tend to lean liberal. But what I've never understood about that was how could they lean liberal or be Democratic when, as I always knew to be true, but it's obviously shown itself to be accurate, at least more over the last going on a year since everything happened in, I believe, October 6th, 7th of 2023. That party that y'all are members of as a Jewish heritage and Israeli background do not support you. So why are you going in line with them? I don't understand. I've never understood that. How could the people of a Jewish background, ethnically, whatever, support a party who has no love for them at all, which has been proven over and over again in the last several months? And then it actually plays into the next topic you just talked about, wokeness and cancel culture and political correctness. I've always had a problem with that because my theory is, first of all, it is not American. Second of all, it goes against First Amendment's right. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you want the freedom to speak what you want to speak, then I should be able to speak what I want to speak and vice versa. And my theory is if they're willing to censor one camp or one voice, then it's only a matter of time they're coming after all of them. So I don't want to open up that door. I want to have the freedom to speak. I don't have to agree with you. It's called compromise and it's called intellectual dialogue. That's what America's about, by the way, people, because we've forgotten that, which it seems we have over the last several years. You should have the right to speak your mind. I should have the right to speak my mind as long as we're doing it in a respectful manner that does not cause harm or infringe upon someone else's right just because I want to exercise my right. And just because someone has the microphone and they're the loudest does not mean they speak for everyone, okay? There's something to be said for the silent majority, and there's something to be said for the loud few that thinks they're the majority just because they're being heard by everybody. And the other thing is, I don't like that at all, and I take severe issue with that, and it just doesn't work, and it shouldn't be allowed because, like I said, you open up legal precedent, then they're gunning for all of us, and it just doesn't work. But anyway, I don't think it's right.
And that's the problem. People don't think long term. Let's think about right now, how I feel. I want to silence the opposition.
Yeah.
No, I'm against that. I agree with that. Entirely. I do. When it comes to I try to support First Amendment with the exception of death threats and things like that. Well, they could use that in court of law against you. But in terms of controversial ideas, I think they should just be speaking out, or just let the public square determine if it's, viable or something.
But the other,
As I was saying, even
political-
even if a controversial opinion should be expressed, and let's see if the public square is receptive
Yeah.
or not. Most likely not, but they should have the right to express themselves. In general, that's my thing. Like I said, unless you're a convicted criminal or proven criminal, then of course, yeah, that's where I draw the obvious line. That should be an easy line to draw. It's okay. Yeah, this person, freedom comes with responsibility. You're irresponsible. You're a criminal.
Yeah.
They don't apply to you. That's my obvious thinking of all of this stuff. Not just because you have a different opinion
Right.
or hurts your feelings. And that's the thing. Law that is based on emotions are very, very dangerous.
Well,
Or perception.
yeah. And that leads into another important piece of this puzzle that I think we've forgotten in this country is the great power that we have and the rights and the freedoms and the liberties that we've been granted because of our Constitution and our God-given rights and the men and women that fight for this country to allow us to and protect our way of life, that allow us to continue having those rights. We've forgotten that with great power comes great responsibility, and people don't want to take the responsibility of, if you have this power of this freedom that most people in the world wish they had, then you need to do it responsibly, meaning you need to be okay to open conversation. And like I said, if you want the right, then someone else needs to have the right as well. Extend what you want for yourself and do it responsibly in a respectable manner so we can have dialogues, and not think just because you want to do whatever the heck you want that you're free from the consequences. I don't know if I've said this to you before on your show before. My husband, when he was alive, favorite thing, and I won't say the words he put because I don't want to offend anybody, but you can be an idiot walking down Harlem with a sign on your chest saying, I hate racial slur, fill in the blank. That's fine. You have a right to do that, but you also don't have a right to get excused from the beatdown. You're probably going to get your ass handed to you. Okay. Just because we have freedom of speech does not mean we're free from the consequences of when we choose not to handle that responsibility, that freedom, in a responsible manner that comes with the power that we were given to have that freedom. And that's part of the problem in this country, is people want to do what they want when they want it right now. Damn the consequences. And they don't have to face it, or they don't think they have to.
Yep. That's why I've been saying, I've been saying the same thing. See, just because you could say something crazy doesn't mean you're shielded from the consequences or the outrage reaction. Oh, why is people reacting that way? Well, what do you say? Oh, Adolf Hitler was good? What? No wonder. I can't blame the public for that.
I mean,
If there was no outrage, then I will question the public. I said, wow, has the public gone corrupt?
and I think
React.
your point that say it out in the public square and see what they say back. And then over the last 10 months, going almost into 11 months, when there was outcry of anti-Semitism against the Jews, I can't get that word out now, anti-Semitism, there we go, I think. And they were allowed to do whatever they want, and they thought they could get away with it. And the public basically said, no, that's not okay. And then there's been people that in the academia world, their heads are rolled over it, as they should, in my opinion. It doesn't fly right now, and it shouldn't fly. That some things should never be done. And that's one of them, if you ask me. Especially when they're your country's ally. I mean, and that goes back to another thing about the current administration, particularly now that Kamala Harris is in the seat of running for president. Whether you like your ally or not, because they are your ally, you meet them and you greet them and you speak with them. Never mind the fact, if you read the Constitution, one of the main duties that is written in the Constitution for the executive, meaning the president and the executive branch, is to deal with state matters and have, I don't want to say host or entertain because that's not the right verbiage in the Constitution, but you deal with them, you meet with them, and that is part of your job. You represent the state, you represent our nation as, oh, I don't know, the president, the head of our nation. Sorry. So you don't skip out on that. That is actually one of the written, defined, specific parts of your job. You don't get to skip out on that just because, oh, I'm sorry, I don't like you guys. And they're your allies, for crying out loud. You don't do that. It's bad form, and it's horrible, and it's horrendous, and it shouldn't have been done. And so that leads me to believe that what other parts may she skip out on if she gets elected to the job that she's asking for from the American public? Whatever. What do I know? It baffles me.
No, I do agree. You cannot cherry pick all the easy responsibility. Just talk to allies are cool based on vibes. Oh, we got the same vibe. We have the same good vibe. Oh no, you got the bad vibe, Michaela. I don't want to talk to you. You got hickey vibes just because of the vibes. No, sadly, you have to talk to people that you don't like, you don't agree with, or if you just can't stand for whatever reason. I mean, that's part of being an adult. And I think we are just forgetting that as people. Let's go with a job, for example. Do you pick your coworkers and your boss? No. Once you accept the job, the position, that's embedded within, okay? The coworkers and the boss. Good amount of times you're not gonna like some of them. But you have to learn how to work with them to get things done. And that's part of being an adult. Not you want to have this high school mentality. Oh, I want to hang out with kids because Me and her are Republicans. Oh no, to heck with those Democrats. I don't want to talk to them. They weird. They all about them vibes. I like logic. No, no, you have to talk to people who have different opinions, okay? So she want to get things done. I mean, your personal life, you do whatever. You do whatever as long as you're not hurting anybody or doing something illegal. Okay. But when you're dealing in the public, you're gonna have to deal with people, situations that you don't like.
Well, I mean,
Do I say embrace it?
yeah,
No, but you have to handle it like a mature person.
there's two instances.
Yeah.
First of all, if there was peace in the Middle East because we all got along, we wouldn't have to worry about making peace in the Middle East. So obviously, you're going to have to deal with people who you don't get along with because that's why there's not peace and we're at war. Second of all, I would venture to say that if in modern presidency, if they had to do what the first presidents of our nation had to do, they would lose their minds because what most people forget in modern times, because we weren't around at the beginning of our country, how we elect our presidents now and VPs was not how we used to do it. Used to back in the day, and I promise you, they did not all agree. You had a list of people running for the presidency. Number one got the president, and then whoever number two got the most votes, they got the VP. It didn't matter if you agreed or not. It was by vote only. So if so and so got number one, the most votes, they were president. They got the number two most amount, the second amount, most amount of votes, they were VP. It didn't matter if you were, oh, we're buddies, we like each other. No, 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 no. And there were some knockout, drag out fights between the first and second presidents and VPs. And that is why they did eventually say, we're going to change that because we don't like that. It was, I want to say it was the 11th or 12th Amendment where it changed it to now how we currently vote for you're on one ticket together and whatnot. But back in the day when this country started, you didn't pick your VP. The American public did. Like it or not.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
just imagine, let's use 2016. Imagine Hillary Clinton won by popular vote. Let's just Hillary Clinton won and Donald Trump is vice president. You know how chaotic that would have. Imagine that. I could just listeners, viewers, use your imagination.
Well,
Imagine what that was like. Hillary Clinton president, Donald Trump vice president. I don't think Donald Trump could handle being vice president very well. Let's just be clear. He's a big alpha personality. He wants to be in the top. And they will bickering and argue, be constant deadlock. Probably good in a way because they pass a lot of crappy laws anyway. But that being said, I kind of agree with Republicans on that one. A lot of crappy laws was passed through Congress, so less productivity, the better right now until they come up with good policies. Let's imagine that, right? Imagine if that system was in play. Oh, and another thing, the Senate was elected by the state electoral college,
mhm,
not the people.
that's right.
Now it's just people to vote.
Yep.
So that's another thing. So just imagine where we have the electoral college for the president. There was also the same thing for the Senate.
And there was a
Yeah.
reason for that. There was a good reason in the founding fathers' minds for that. The the House of Representatives was considered the people's house, and then the Senate was considered, like you said, the I don't want to say higher, but more noble or whatever, the higher echelon. And they wanted to keep the balance so we'd never end up in a position where it was mob rule. And so they wanted to balance out to have one house elected by the people and one not. But then in more modern times, I want to say it's the 17th Amendment. You might have to correct me on that. It changed it where all of Congress, both houses of the bicameral system of our Congress, are in fact elected by we the people. And in modern times, they would say that's better. And it probably does work out better that the president gets to pick their VPs. But back in the day, like I said, it didn't work that way. So you're going to have to get along with them whether you liked it or not. I never got to see the skit, but I remember the 2000 election and going to church the next day after SNL, and everybody was talking about how SNL came up with a skit had Bush and Gore had to share the White House, and it was a skit likened to the old sitcom of The Odd Couple of Alex and Oscar and Felix. I can only imagine how hysterical that would have been. I would have loved to see that skit, and I've looked for it several times. I've never found it, but it's kind of what you're saying. Like, imagine them trying to share that one. Anyway,
I'm gonna have a lot of laughs, that's for sure. And and maybe we will have better laws made because they're forced to compromise. They are forced to be very careful and more meticulous of what they want in the law. And that's why I push for balanced government. If I see too much Republicans, I put in some Democrats, and vice versa. Too much Democrats, I'm trying to put some Republicans in. We need balance. We need balance. We need balance, and we have lost sight of that. I mean, to your point, I mean, it would have been great if each 50 states, I think it was done like this back then. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I didn't look this up. That it would have had one Democrat, one Republican senator for all 50 states.
I'm not saying
That I
you're
think
wrong.
that would have been a great balance.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I've never heard of that. I just always knew it was 2 senators for each state, and then
No, you're right. It has always been that
how
way
it
since
was
day.
always based off of population, which is gathered by the census and how many represented each state is allowed. Same for the electoral college. So I don't know on that. I really don't. I can't speak to that, but you may be correct.
No, I think that's why electoral college. I think try to maintain that balance with two parties at that. But I could be wrong. That's speculative, people. So don't say misinformation. I'm only speculating here. But free correct me if the chat. But to your point with the 17th Amendment, you are correct. That's what made the Senate a direct vote, popular vote, as opposed to having a state electoral college.
And even though I respected the founding fathers for the reason why they originally set it up in the original design, I inherently, maybe because I'm an American in more modern times, don't take issue with that 17th Amendment. I think it did bring it more towards we the people. But I would, and this is something I call it a constitutional needle in the haystack because no one really talks about the Electoral College until they need to talk about it, which means the presidential election. And here we are again. I would like to get your opinion on something and then I'll weigh in on it. There are usually 3 camps related to Electoral College. Usually there's ones that say, leave it alone, it's fine the way it is. There's usually the second camp of abolish it altogether. And then there's a third camp of it needs to be amended. Where do you come down on that?
Uh, me, I'm definitely not in the second camp. I think abolishing it would cause total mayhem. But, the election will be just laying on California, New York, Florida, and Texas.
Texas, yep.
They hold the cards.
Yeah.
And that's very unfair. And, states like Iowa, Wyoming, even Delaware, Rhode Island, and I'm listing like that on purpose because I'm trying to be fair. Listen, Republican, Democrats, small states and big states.
Which
Yeah, they will have essentially zero
which is the
say. So
reason
I think
why the founding fathers came up with it because they didn't want the bigger states to outdo the smaller states and it not to be mom rule. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we should do away with it. It was a funny story because, like you said, I'm usually know my mind pretty well, and you usually don't have to guess what comes out of this redhead's mind because I'm pretty much going to speak it and not mince words. When I was getting my grad work done in political science and American government, I usually have a pretty good certain opinion on how I'm going to come down and argue my papers when I wrote them. I about made my husband fall out one time because when I had to write the electoral college, I went in with a certain opinion. It's the only time out of high school, undergraduate, graduate, I've ever changed my mind on a paper. When I started a paper and then when I came down to the end of the paper. When I went into this paper writing on the electoral college, I was at the camp. It doesn't need to be changed. It's the way it's supposed to be. End of story. At the end of the paper, I came to a different opinion. I came to an opinion, I never want it to be abolished. That's not going to change. That's not a negotiable for me. I don't want to abolish it because I agree with you and I agree with the founding fathers. That was the whole reason for it. And it makes sense. And it does keep this country balanced and not, give in to one versus the other. And I'm fine with it if it never changes. But I would say that I could see it needing to change. And I won't go into all the particulars. Because I'd have to look at the paper because it's been long since I wrote it. But there's generally 5 different proposed plans of how to amend the Electoral College. And they're complicated and technical for this conversation, and I had to look at it because it's been a while since I laid my eyes on it. But the one I do know about is what's called proportionate. And so by the end of the paper, when I'd done all the research and read all the things, I had said that I had found myself in new territory of changing my mind on a research paper. Which that's good research because that's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to either prove it or not prove it or come to a different conclusion and keep you honest that way. But I decided by the end of that research paper in grad school that I would be okay with amending it to what's considered the proportionate plan. And what that basically means is, for anyone out there who wonders what the crap I'm talking about, we'll take an example of California or Texas or New York. I don't care. As we have already said, in the Electoral College, you have what's matched to what represents this country. Let me give you a little history on the Electoral College, because you're going to see this play out in about 70 days, and it's going to matter because you have to read the map, basically. We have 100 senators, so there's 100 electoral votes that mirror that. There are 535 representatives currently in the House of Representatives, which makes for 535. So you have 535 votes in the Electoral College. DC gets 3, so that makes for 538. So in the Electoral College is made up of 538 delegates. Now, if you divide that into 2, it's 269, so you need a tiebreaker. So that's why you always hear around the presidential election, the magic golden lottery ticket is the 270. We need that 270, that big number of 270. That's what that's all about. So what that means is, when you look based off of the census, when we gather how many people live in what state, is decided how many, just like with the House of Representatives, each state is allotted so many representatives, so are they so many delegates in Electoral College to culminate to the 538 that we just spoke of. So each state in its current form, whatever your amount of delegates are, whatever now there are some exceptions that have been concerned in our country. Did the Electoral College ever really have to be bound by going with what the popular vote said? Yes, they do in most cases. In most states historically, that's what they do. So let's say you pick a state, I don't know, Texas, Florida, New York, whatever it is. I know last time I heard, California has 55 votes in Electoral College. Florida has 25 or something like that, maybe 28 now. New York is close to that. Texas is 38 last I heard. As it stands now in its current form, there is a point to this, I promise. Each state electoral votes are all or nothing. They all go to the candidate that the popular vote spoke for. So if Texas votes Republican, then that means all the electoral votes in Texas are going to go towards, in the Electoral College, towards the Republican candidate. California, if they all vote Democrat, they're all going to go Democrat. So that's why it means all of nothing. Now, what the proportionate proposal would be, should we ever come up to an instance where it would be presented a proposal for amending electoral colleges, it would be more proportionate, meaning, let's say in Texas, 60% votes Republican, 40% Democrat. Then that means, to mirror that in the popular vote, when we as a people, American people, cast our votes for who we want to be president, the electoral candidates would, electoral delegates in the Electoral College would proportionately represent Texas, and there would be, out of the 38, 60% of those delegates would go for the Republican candidate, and 40% of the 38 delegates would go for Democrat. I'm not a math person. You figure the math of what that would be, how it would actually look in an Electoral College if it was done that way. And so for me, when I did some research on that paper in grad school, it showed me a method and form of an Electoral College that would mirror we the people's actual voice and position. And so I say that is a better way of managing the Electoral College. If it never changes, I'm fine with it, because I'd rather protect the Electoral College in its integrity and entity than mess with it and abolish it altogether. But should it ever be amended, then that's what I would vote for, but I am fine with keeping it, and that's where I stand on it. And this matters because it is, in fact, how we get our president. So for anyone who says, yeah, that's not important, it is equivalent, beyond important, equivalently in our country every 4 years of when we get our president. And that's where I stand on that one.
I cheated with the calculator because I don't feel like calculating in my head. Just being really honest. So let me pretend I'm a math genius for a second. I cheat with the calculator. Take it as you will, because I don't feel like thinking. Thank God for calculators.
Right.
So let's just use a table of math. That will be 23 delegates going to Trump, and the rest of the 15 going to Hillary. I mean, Kamala. Oh, excuse me. I'm still thinking about 2016. Ugh.
Yeah.
Being obsolete, Peter, gotta get it together. 15 goes to Kamala, 23 goes to Trump, if you want to do it proportionate. And I'm actually open to it, because I thought about this. I said, yeah, it's all or nothing. I think only 2 states got their weird
They do.
special.
It's Maine that does it differently, and it's either Kansas or Nebraska. I get that mixed up.
Nebraska.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah. Yeah, Nebraska. Even though it's mostly Republican, there's always that one little special district that ends up Democrat.
Yeah.
That one little annoying blue dot for Nebraska to be pure Republican.
Yeah.
And if for New Hampshire, it's always like that one red.
Not New Hampshire.
Oh, you know, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm mixing it up. No, New Hampshire is light blue. I mean, Maine. Maine always has that red
Yeah.
fit somewhere.
Yeah.
Oof, I'm mixing things up. Don't mind me. My brain is getting fried. But yeah, it's Maine. Yeah, no, you're right. It is actually Maine. Maine has that red spot that keeps it from being blue. Even though I think it's a moderate state for the most part. I think overall its politics is pretty moderate. Even though it kind of favors them when it comes to the presidency. Yeah. But I think I think they still got a Republican and an independent. I consider him a Democrat. Stop being independent, Agnes King. Just be a Democrat. Stop with the BS.
Yeah.
You fully know that label. You're a Democrat. You vote with Democrats at least 80% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, as a tracking average. All right. But
Why does
I don't want to make it my Agnes King rant. Say he's an independent.
the other
He's
thing,
not.
I think that goes to something that's interesting in our country, and this is something else I talked about my husband when he was alive, is that yes, there are Republicans and yes, there's Democrats, but it's almost a misnomer because just like there's exception to every generalization, you can have moderates, you can have liberals in the conservatives in the Republican Party. Just because they're Republican doesn't make them conservative, and you can have conservatives and moderates in the Democratic Party. It would almost be more accurate and probably make less muddy of the political party waters if we had a party of conservatism and a party of the liberalism instead of Republican versus Democrat. But, and this actually makes an interesting point about what you were talking about earlier, is when we are moderate and when we're independent, it could be argued, and I've often thought this is what could be the American unicorn, because they're hard to truly find. If you know how you think about an independent voter, yes, technically independent in the sense they're not affiliated with any party, but I mean independent in the sense of they're not tied to any one thing that sways them. I think that would be an American political unicorn, because that's going to be hard pressed to find, because you can talk about 9 different factors that go into voting behavior. But all of this political party stuff that we talk about and how our system is structured in election cycles it'd almost be argued that the more constitutional standpoint would be to be an independent voter, because you will never see the verbiage or the terminology or the concept or the idea of political parties in the Constitution. And as a matter of fact, numerous instances you can find quotes from our founding fathers that were very wary and leery of political parties and spoke out against it. They never intended that to be the way our country go and be structured in politics.
I mean, listeners, are you getting value out of this? Because this is knowledge you need to know. This is need to know. Even though I'm going to slightly disagree on one point, I believe the president election gets way too much attention. I wish there was a way that the attention span could kind of even out to focus on the Senate and the House Representative, at least. And this is for the national, because they got different levels of media. Local media, you cover their local politics, okay? I'm not gonna muddle with that. That's just logical to me. I just wish more local elections could get attention and keep it within the district and all that. But I think the president gets too much attention. I get it. But in terms of policy impact to Americans, I think state and local does that better. And for me, I just think those are the ones that need more attention. But that's just my opinion. I just think the presidency is overhyped. It gets a lot of people freaking nervous. And I will say sometimes it's for nothing. That's just me. It's my spicy take.
I think
You could either give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's up to you. I welcome your opinion, stupid or intelligent. I don't believe in canceling you. I might call you out on the future episode to see what the public square thinks.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think It gets a lot of attention because, one, it is the biggest election. It is the leader of our country, so it matters a great deal. But also, comparatively speaking, at least in the state that I live in currently, Louisiana, when we do representatives and we do senators, either statewide on the state level or even nationally in Congress, the length of those elections don't run the way the presidential election runs. And it makes sense because only one state are voting for those. But there are so many moving parts to the American presidential election cycle because you have 50 states that have to vote for this. And that's why as irritating and ridiculous as we all get done with it after 18 months, I would argue the first 6 months is about negotiating and trying to navigate who's actually going to run and put their hat in it. And then you have that established, and then you wait for the year mark. And then, okay, then it starts to get a little more serious. And then it really comes down to the primaries because it does take a lot to get 50 primaries done across a huge nation. I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, I guess you could squeeze it in more quickly and we'd all be like, yeah, it's over, but I'm tired of hearing about it. But I don't know how you logistically make that work smoothly. Because then it really comes down to the next thing you have to pay attention to are the political parties conventions, and then the real race start. So by that point, we've already been dealing with this for 15 freaking months. Like, enough already, people. You're like, oh, thank gosh, it's over. We don't have to deal with this for another 4 years. And plus, not only that, so you're dealing with the amount that has to be done for a presidential election over 50 states and the length that it takes to do that. And you only do it once every 4 years, whereas opposed to, I don't know about in the state level because each state has their own rules for governors and how long they serve and their state representatives and blah, blah, blah. But with the federal Congress, you have to do that literally midterms every 2 years. Like, you can't do a year and a half long process cycle every 2. I mean, that's all we would do. Like, it doesn't work. So I think that whether it should or shouldn't be that way, I think that's a big part of the variable as to why it's that case. And that makes it be that way, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. I just wish it was a bit faster because it drags on and
Yes, it
on.
does.
And let's bring back resilience. Oh, you need to be
Yeah.
supremely resilient, especially when it comes to the presidential run.
Yep.
The Senate, you need a little bit of it. You get, and especially House Representative, well, half the time they campaigning, and only half the time it gets a legislative bills. So that was always a quick one. So that's why you don't feel so overwhelmed with House Representative, especially. And then locally, yeah, that widely varies. You check with your local station and your local website for that one. Okay, because I mean, yeah, I know the New York state governor, they always start during the midterms. And so next one is not until 2020.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how I memorize my political cycles. Yeah, New York governor always starts at the midterm, and that's normally a reprimand of the party, the one that has the president.
Yep.
That's what I mean by that. Just to be very clear. So
And
yeah, I get it. I get it. I just wish it was a faster way for
everybody
for
does. You're
me
not
at
in the
least.
minority on that
I
one.
wish more people could pay attention to state and local politics in their area because the participation rates or just the disparities is just great. I mean, not even less than half, like less than 3% give a rat's behind by the state, and then locally, forget it. It
I know.
You're from like 2 to like 10%. You're lucky to get 10%.
Which is really sad because it all impacts each other. The micro affects the macro, and the macro impacts the micro. And usually out of the micro, like local politics and state politics, sometimes very much can impact the national politics. So it's true, but it's sad. And then something else I should have touched on earlier when you were talking about, and I totally agree with you that we need to get more God into our country. There was an interesting thing Louisiana did this year. They made a law where the 10 commandments have to be posted in all school and all classrooms this year. So
I think was it remember what state was that? Oklahoma that was trying to do that.
I don't know, but Louisiana did it, and some teachers were happy with it and some weren't. I mean, like, they were like, well, we have to talk. No, you don't. You just are required to put it on your wall. You don't have to point it out. So I don't know what they were upset about, but whatever. I'm not in the classroom. Their jobs are hard.
Heathen. That's so simple. Heathen. But anyways, I could go to my spiritual rant about that. But I'm not. I mean, yeah, I should be doing that. Me and my only thing is this is gonna sound mildly contrary. You know, I'm a spiritual Christian. I don't believe it just should be forced. I think the bit of a government mandate will leave a bad taste in some people's mouths, but I just don't know how it can ever get that because I do believe more God needs to be implemented. How it can be implemented without some kind of force? It's the to me that's the conundrum.
Yep. And a lot
And especially the
of
more diverse than ever, not just racially, but also religiously forget it.
yeah.
Before it was like super majority Christian, and I'm not going to get down to the breakdown denominations. It's going to take forever to go through all that. You know, there's Protestant, Christian, and I mean, there's Catholic, there's Methodist, all these other lovely groups. I say the denominations was the devil's greatest invention because it keeps all God believing people separated. That's my thing. But I'm not going to get into this. The Methodist way is the best way. Oh, the Protestant way.
Well,
I
I
think we all, hey, we need to get back with the Lord
yeah, I mean,
because
made for everyone.
uh,
And this is actually something interesting. I remember seeing this as a kid. And it's interesting. I just thought of this because we just got done with the Summer Olympics. I always found it interesting. I don't know if you ever saw these growing up. We had, and we'd make them in VBS, Vacation Bible Schools, what we called power band, Salvation Power Band, where it would like be like a brown band, like a leathery band where you put 6 beads on it, and it would represent the 6 different phases of salvation. Like black was for sin, red was for Christ's blood, and then white being pure snow, and then I forget the order of the last 3. Blue was for the living water. Green was for the eternal life, and yellow was for heaven. Anyway, so you have those, whatever the last order of the 3 were. But the Olympic flag, guess what? Has all the same colors, and it's for the whole world.
so it's the yellow and green.
Yep. And so I always thought that was interesting as a kid that a sport that's for the whole world mirrored what salvation was for the whole world. So my position, yeah, I come up with weird patterns, a little odd like that and correlations. But my thing is, yes, you have your own denominations, and whichever one you pick, more power to you. But as long as we all agree on the Christian doxology and creed, then the rest is just religious gravy. Go figure it out for yourself. Yeah.
Fair enough. Because everyone's spiritual journey is unique. And I think denomination, or not, I know denominations water that down at least significantly. That is just me. Like, if you just believe in God, you're connected with Him. Me, I'm personally a church hopper. I've hopped to a Catholic church. I hopped to a Protestant church one time. I've hopped to a Methodist church. I was like, listen, I just want to be with the denomination thing. It personally even turns me off sometimes because it just seems so. Some of it to me seems so outdated. It's a long criticizing the church. Eliza's a heathen. No, I'm criticizing the denomination, not God. I'm not calling God an idiot.
Right.
That's right. So if you feel that way, that's up to you. Put in the comment section, expose your stupidity, and let's see if the trolls will eat you alive in the comment section. Keep it verbal, keep it wordy, don't make it violent.
If
So
you had
that's all this.
back to politics, because I'm curious, if you had to predict if we voted tomorrow or a week from today, because today's actually Tuesday, that's when we always vote in this country for presidents and election. Who do you think's gonna come down to? Like, what do you think's gonna be the result of all this mayhem?
I was like, can you repeat that again? Quite catch that.
I said if we had to vote tomorrow or next Tuesday, like if the election was tomorrow, what would you predict is going to be the result of the election that we have in 70 days?
If the election was held today, based on looking at data statistics and my own prediction, despite what the media is doing, I still believe Trump is going to win by a small margin.
Yeah, I agree. I don't.
That's why I believe
Right.
if I'm going to guess electoral count, which I could be off by a couple of digits, I would probably say he'll win by at least probably like close to 280, 290, that range.
Well, the last time he won, I think it was he got the last one that put him over was Pennsylvania in 2016. I think he was at 320. or something like that. I don't know what it'll be this year, but I stayed up really late on the East Coast for that one because I was still in New Hampshire. I don't think I went to bed till like 3 o'clock in the morning that day, and I maybe remember that number wrong because it's been 8 years. But I don't see how it couldn't go that way. But stranger things have happened in politics, and they always talk about the October surprise. Well, we don't need any more surprises this election cycle. We had the summer surprises this election cycle. Okay, October, you've already been taken care of. You don't give us no more, please. Lord have mercy, no more surprises this election cycle. Thank you. October, summer took care of you. You're done.
I mean, to Trump's credit, he predicted Biden was gone, I think a couple of weeks before it even officially happened. It's although he's gone.
Yeah,
I said, Trump is onto something.
yeah.
He's gonna be gone. Especially that debate performance, it was just listen. I said, yeah, I think the Democrats, if they want him, because like I said, and I'm just gonna say this real quick, I don't want to be too repetitive. Trump never polled this good after the debate. The writing was on the wall.
Oh, it was
That's
so
what they had to do this
awful.
change.
I mean, you may not
So
like
according to, I'm just going
well,
went to the polls. He was winning by 7,
yeah.
10 points. Especially with the swing state variable. Now those are good margins.
Yeah, I mean, the American public may not have liked the writing that was on that wall, but they can't deny that it was in fact there unless you're like totally oblivious and under a rock. But whether you agree with the writing or the wall or not, the fact of the matter is it was definitely there. There was no denying that. It was inevitable at that point. So
Yes, I never saw Trump polls so good. He never polled as good before. It was always at most 55. No, it was even 60% one point. It's like,
you
you sure y'all want to keep Biden? Well, yeah, go ahead.
right. I mean, you're
You
just
know,
gonna do yourself, but that one
well,
counts. The other thing I find
and well, that's why they had to make this change, especially Pelosi. Pelosi's the one that forced them out. I believe
that's
that
what
you
I
can't change your
thought
mind.
happened. The writing was on the wall. Whether people liked the writing on the wall, there was no denying the writing was there, and I don't know what else they could have done because it would just put the nail in their proverbial coffin. But the other thing, I want to know what I wanted to say, what we were talking about. I think what is interesting on the Electoral College, because I tend to think of weird things, and I wanted to see, even though it does take 270, I ran I ran the Electoral College map because I was wondering because we talk about when we said if it was just a strictly popular vote, California, Texas, New York, and Florida would run the country, basically. Now, this would probably be statistically, probability, politically, historically, virtually impossible and never ever happen. But as it stands, based off of the population of our country and how many delegates the Electoral College has, you can actually win a presidential election without California, New York, Texas, or Florida. Now you have to get all the other 46 states, but then the cumulative number of electoral delegate votes of the other 46 states minus Texas, Florida, New York, and California would pull your 270. Now, would that ever really happen? Probably not, but it would be interesting to know.
Oh, that should be a special challenge. Win the election without the major 4 states.
You have to
Yeah,
call,
you're gonna have to get all the small states.
yeah,
Just agree. And well, of course, that includes Washington D.C. because that's the
yeah.
3. Also, otherwise they'll be equally the same as Congress, both the upper house, the Senate, and the lower house, the House of Representatives. So yeah, I mean, I'll be a special challenge. I respect that president even more. I said, wow, you managed to outmaneuver the major 4 in terms of electoral power.
I mean,
Oh,
like I said, the odds of
I mean,
actually realistically happening, not, but it is interesting to think about that if you took out of 538, you subtracted those 4 states and you saw the votes where it would put you and you could do it. It would be hard pressed, but it's still interesting to think about.
what was the one that achieved near unanimous win? Oh, yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
The only state was Minnesota.
Yep.
The only state that, yes, New York was red. California was red.
Yeah.
Okay, at that time. I know you can't fathom that. It always seems like it was eons ago.
It
But
was.
it happened.
I wish, I mean, I was technically alive when that happened, or I was too, so I definitely wasn't paying attention to politics. But I wish I'd been old enough to see it happen and pay attention to it because that would have been incredible. I would have loved to have seen it. I don't know if we've had one.
Oh, yeah, not me. Oh, yeah, me, I wasn't even thought of yet. No. I mean, it would have been great just to just live that moment, just to get a general feel how it was. I mean, I'm never gonna get the feeling as those who live there. So lucky for you, boomers. But or maybe that's like obnoxious millennial. I am millennial.
I'm
But
Gen X.
that would have been so interesting. Just it was a wow,
Yeah.
red. Oh, almost the entire Washington DC was red too. Yeah, Delaware red. Can you believe that? Oh well, that's practically impossible today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that almost happened. He almost won the entire country.
Yep.
I guess it's possible. That's all I'm gonna say. I guess it's possible, but it's gonna probably happen once if it happens within our lifetime.
Yeah.
Just once.
We'll see if it's
Not twice.
we'll
That would be insane if it happened twice.
right.
But
We'll see if this is the one, but we'll see what happens. In any case, no matter what it is, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But 70 days, people. Let's just be resilient and hang on 70 more days.
yeah, by the time this episode's out, the countdown already starts. It's probably gonna be less than that when this thing releases. But it's been great. Then before I awkwardly wrap this up, because we could go on for a long time. A lot of great stuff, a lot of wacky stuff as well. But I don't know. Me, I'm normally the 2020 election. I felt down about it, but this one, I don't know. I have a weird feeling about this one, and I'm not sure if it's positive or maybe I'm just curious.
Well,
Because I'm just
if it
curious.
happens and Trump wins, let's just say he does, this will be the second time in American history that that'll be the case, meaning that you have a presidency that served one term, didn't win the following election, and then came back and did it again. So he would make the second occurrence in our history.
So he'll be just picking Grover Cleveland. He was the last one that had achieved that.
Exactly correct.
See, we know our stuff, not spreading misinformation. All right. We actually do our best. She allows correction. I even allow correction because as one of my secondary brand, if you want to call it, or what I try to do is not to spread misinformation as much as possible, because I think that's just very important.
Yep.
But without censorship.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I mean, it's called you could rebuttal and bring evidence.
Yep.
And make that, if that person wants to stick to being stupid, well, let them. It'll be recording. That's evidence within itself, okay? Censorship is not the right thing.
Nope.
Even if I would have stood as a Democrat, even though I'm not, I would have been very critical of that because I just think it's so anti-American.
It is.
It's just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute with the First Amendment, But like you said, doesn't mean you're immune to consequences.
Yep.
So if you want to say, if you go to a predominantly Spanish neighborhood and trying to mock a Mexican, all they're gonna do is laugh at you, call you gringo and stupid, and just go on with their day.
Yep.
You're just probably gonna be ridiculed. Okay, that's one idea of it. Or if they are really angry, they will. I'm gonna use the gang term. They will jump you, meaning multiple people are gonna knock you down.
Yep.
Yes, it's gonna be you, the idiot, 1 versus 5 of those people. Okay, so so I, just because you got the freedom to speak, it free comes with responsibility. Stop chasing this fantasy called unlimited freedom. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so
the other thing I will
no, right. Yeah.
Regardless of
What's your
come down on this election, first and foremost, regardless of what side you come down on, as a member of We the People, you must exercise your vote, your right to express your voice by voting in this election. Or I would say you don't get a right to gripe and complain because you didn't take the opportunity you had to say what you wanted. And that's what I've always said.
I mean, come on. That's why I got kind of like the Democrats and some Republicans that opened early voting. It's even less excuse now.
Yeah.
For early voting. Take advantage.
I like to vote on the actual day.
Yeah, and that's a preference. I mean, I vote on the actual day because I don't know, it just feels right for me.
Exactly.
But the early vote is around because there's people that work and there are people that can be available on that day. And I kind of disagree with Republicans' pushback on this. Look, I know you're trying to preserve tradition and all that. I think we need to make this a little more accessible. That's always been my belief. Rather you're Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to think about working people or people who are just so busy. Have the chance for have more voice. It's always been my thing. It's not about trying to favor one side or the other. It's just more accessibility. And at the same time, I'm going to bash Democrats. So you complain about voter accessibility, but yet you don't allow independents to vote on primaries, calling you out in New York, New Jersey.
Well, each
Only allow a vote in general election. In other states that got closed primaries, stop that. We gotta expand that even more. So I'm calling out.
Don't disagree.
Whatever that supports restricted voting, you're a hypocrite. You're damaging democracy.
It gets complicated because each state has their own. I don't even try and keep all that straight because it's so different with primaries everywhere you go, and that's so confusing. Yeah, I agree.
Any state has. I'm sorry. Any state that has. Yeah, I'm getting passionate. Any state that has closed primaries have it. Just make them sign an affidavit so they won't have to duplicate a vote. If they do that, they should get consequences.
Yeah.
It's simple. Okay. Yeah, that's why it's an affidavit. All right. Before I start turning into a shouting match, I'm not shouting at the guests if you want to misconstrue. I'm shouting at.
I know. I understand. You bother me.
Oh no. You're fine. This is for the listeners here that are not paying attention or acting conveniently stupid. I'm just shouting at the system and politicians who love to limit democracy, even though I consider this a constitutional democracy. That's how we label it. Even though, yes, some people say republic is a democracy, it's a bit of both. Before it was more of a republic. We're definitely leaning more towards Democrat route. I mean, look what these amendments have done. The repeal of the state electoral college, 17th Amendment. And when they get to repeal out the electoral college presidency, I don't think it's not going to happen anytime soon, and I don't want it to happen. I believe in revisions, revision. I'm on the revision camp. I'm on the third door. I think the proportion thing is the best one I've heard.
I agree.
So because it actually really represents what portion of the state wants this person. Oh, and the other thing for delegates, don't go rogue. And let me just give you a very example. New Hampshire, they pick Kamala. You're gonna say, to heck with the people's vote. I'm going with Trump. Arrest that person. And this is never gonna happen. But 100% of New Hampshire voters went with Kamala. And one of them turned around and said, "No, I'm going for Trump guy. I think the people are stupid." No, arrest that delegate. Nope, just like that. I will put consequences for those delegates who want to be rogue. You represent what the people really want. So I think it's the best to do that. So I just want to emphasize. I think that's, to me, I'm definitely on that camp. No mouse. I'm gonna be clear. No.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, I will be voting on the 5th, as I should be, and I will be staying up until it's called, and I will have my notes in my phone, keeping up with the tally of the electoral college, and probably a beverage in my hand.
Yeah, I'm personally thinking about just doing the same because I'm very interested. Probably gonna stay up till midnight.
I'll see what happens. Late. Yeah, and then I'll regret it the next morning. When I have to be early in the morning with the kids. But that's what I do.
Yeah. And I mean, we both are politically dedicated. So
yeah.
That's the cost, okay? That as much as you love it, but that's the cost. That's the sacrifice. Okay?
Okay.
If you want to call it that.
Yep.
Which is, I know it's hyperbolic. I get it, but look, we both know what we're doing. You know what we signed up for.
Yeah. I think my kids will be glad when the election's over because that means I won't be turning on the news channel that I watch just about daily now during this election cycle. They're probably about done and ready for me not to be having my head poked out for politics so much right now. They're like, "Yay, it's over, so quit watching it." Well, get over it. I like to be informed.
Yeah, kids. Well, when they grow up, I'm sure some are going to change their minds. Oh, I should be involved politically. I'm sure. Yeah. I just let them be kids. They can stay out of politics.
Yeah.
We don't need your vote until you're 8.
And that's why I tell them this is a dictatorship until you're 18 because you don't get a vote anyway. Then it becomes a dictatorship. You don't pay the bills. You don't pay taxes. It's not a democracy in this house. Not until you're 18 when you get to.
Right, that is domestic dictator people. They gonna expose. It's true. They don't pay taxes. They pay nothing. You gotta obey the mother. There's a reason why we have a family structure.
That's right.
If kids are rulers, I think it'll be anarchy. Okay,
but
let's just be clear. Anarchy.
Yeah.
No leadership. All craziness. All mental illness. Wild, uncontrollably. Okay, if kids rule. Yeah, I know I'm probably bashing your son or daughter or whatever gender you identify them as, but they should not rule. Okay. I'm a highly conservative on that issue.
Oh yeah.
No, they don't know what they're doing. They're lovely.
Yeah.
9% of them are not made for leadership.
Yeah. And that's why on a parenting thing, I don't know why we get away from it, why it's considered such a bad thing because I said so, because I told you so. That's the end of it. Those are very good health
Yeah.
questions.
Listen, you kids have it easy now. Okay. Just enjoy it.
Right?
So that's the I was gonna flip that. You kids have it easy now. Once you hit adulthood, you're gonna wonder why mommy or if a daddy's around, why they did what they did. You'll get it eventually.
Oh yeah.
Now your baby brain can't process it, but you'll get it eventually.
And that is why, at least in this household, I've always expressed the emphasis and value of being informed politically, because it's in politics, the policy decisions they make that you vote for affect what you do in your adulthood, like what they do with your paycheck and how much they're going to take out of it. So that stuff matters. So that's why you need to pay attention and be informed.
It's been great fun. No surprise there.
Well, I'm always glad to have good, free, uncensored, intellectual opportunities to discuss, regardless of what side people come down on, to show people that's how it's supposed to be done. And I always appreciate the opportunity to have an amazing conversation with you.
Oh, yeah, I always appreciate you, though, for sure. And you're welcome to return. That's for sure. For those of you who survive,
Go out and vote.
What was that?
Go out and vote, people. That's my message. Go out and vote.
Go out and vote. Take advantage of early vote. And if you want to keep it traditional, do it on election day, do so. Just make sure you have your voices heard, stamped, and counted. Whatever the heck you do in your local, because everyone got machines and digital, whatever the heck you use in your count. Make sure it's counted. That's what I'm going to say. So from wherever, whenever you listen to this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or